because most of us know that Starmer was against.
I am disgusted to report today that Britain's political prisoner Lucy Connolly, the grieving mother locked up for 31 months for a singular X post later deleted on the day of the triggering Southport massacre, has been attacked behind bars by the prison staff who are meant to be protecting her. They intend to not only continue the persecution of Lucy, but terrify her. I can reveal today that Lucy Connolly has been warned about staying silent upon her release. And last Thursday, she was subjected to...
We have a growing number of young people in this country who do not subscribe to British values, in fact.
But I would certainly visit London, yeah.
Got a little too comfortable with censoring rather than engaging with a diverse array of opinions. So that's been my view. Obviously, I've raised some criticism and concerns about our friends.
They decided that actually they were not going to submit any defence whatsoever. Essentially, it looks like they basically said to the essentially now the murderer who's admitted it, you're on your own, pal. We're not going to defend you. Which of course then denies any information coming out in the trial. And that's sort of left everybody thinking, well...
Exactly how much clearer do you want me to be?
Shanty camps, public defecation, drunken shouting, rubbish discarded in the streets, tents pitched up from across a five-star hotel.
Keir Starmer thought the storm was over. He thought the public outrage over Lucy Connolly and Tommy Robinson's arrests would fade, that his government's iron grip on free speech could tighten without resistance. But today, that illusion shattered in the most brutal way possible. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, has stepped into the fight, publicly, loudly, and without mercy. In a live TV appearance that sent shockwaves from Washington to Westminster, Trump didn't just criticise Starmer's Online Safety Act or his migration policies. He went straight for the jugular, demanding to know why Britain's Prime Minister had imprisoned two people for nothing more than a single social media post. Why is Lucy Connolly in prison? Why is Tommy Robinson in prison? For a tweet? That's not justice. That's tyranny, Trump thundered, his words echoing across news channels and tearing into the image Starmer has tried to craft. The timing could not have been worse for Downing Street. Starmer was already under fire for the luxury migrant hotel scandal, already struggling to contain backlash over rising homelessness and public services collapsing. Now, the most powerful man in the world was calling him out on live television and asking the question millions in Britain have been too afraid to say aloud. The tension had been building for weeks. Starmer's government, backed by London Mayor Sadiq Khan, had positioned the Online Safety Act as a shield for public safety and protection against harmful content. But critics, both inside and outside the UK, saw something far darker. A tool for political censorship. The arrest of Lucy Connolly, a young woman whose only crime was a sharply worded tweet, and Tommy Robinson, a controversial but undeniably popular activist, became the flashpoint. For Trump, these arrests weren't just a British political scandal, they were a warning sign to the West. When you lock people up for speaking their mind, you're not protecting democracy, you're killing it, he said, his voice hard, his tone unflinching. This was more than a disagreement between allies. This was a transatlantic confrontation over the very meaning of freedom. Trump's message was crystal clear. Britain is rewarding lawbreakers at the border and punishing patriots at home. That's the fastest way to destroy a nation. Inside Westminster, Starmer's team scrambled to respond. But even as Labour ministers tried to downplay the significance of Trump's comments, the story was exploding online. Hashtags like Free Lucy Connolly, Free Tommy Robinson, and Stop Starmer trended across social platforms, fueled by clips of Trump's speech that were spreading like wildfire. Sadiq Khan, who had long aligned himself with Starmer's vision of responsible online governance, doubled down, claiming that laws like the Online Safety Act were essential to fight hate speech and dangerous misinformation. But Khan's words only poured fuel on the fire. To Trump and his supporters, hate speech was simply the government's excuse to silence dissent. To many ordinary Britons, Khan's defence sounded less like leadership and more like justification for political repression. The arrests of Connolly and Robinson weren't abstract legal matters. They were tangible examples of what happens when the government decides which opinions are acceptable. Trump's attack was calculated, ruthless, and timed for maximum damage. He linked free speech to national sovereignty, migration policy, and the moral decay he says is consuming the West. You don't get to silence your citizens while opening the gates to people who break your laws, Trump said sharply. You don't get to jail your critics while putting illegal migrants in luxury hotels. You can't call yourself a free country when you do that. It was the kind of soundbite designed to stick, the kind of political punch that leaves bruises for months, and it hit Britain like a thunderclap. Even those who disagreed with Trump politically found themselves nodding along to the basic principle, because deep down, they knew something was wrong. The arrests of Connolly and Robinson weren't just about them. They were about the dangerous precedent being set. Once a government claims the power to decide which speech is allowed, it never gives that power back. And now, with Trump standing firmly in their corner, the movement to challenge Starmer's policies was no longer a fringe campaign, it was an international rallying cry. The truth about the arrests of Lucy Connolly and Tommy Robinson didn't just appear in the headlines, it exploded into the public consciousness like a political bomb, scattering fragments of anger, confusion and fear across the nation. For weeks, the British government had tried to paint these cases as simple matters of law and order. Lucy Connolly, a young mother from the Midlands, had posted a single, scathing tweet criticising the government's migration policy. It contained no threats, no calls for violence, just raw frustration at watching her community's resources stretched to breaking point, while migrants were housed in comfort. Tommy Robinson, long a thorn in the side of the establishment, had shared a video clip challenging official narratives about crime statistics. That, in the eyes of Starmer's government, was enough to justify arrest, trial and prison. The message was unmistakable. Speak out against the state's agenda, and you will be silenced. But what they didn't anticipate was that silencing two voices would amplify the message of millions more. Within hours of their arrests, social media became a battlefield. Footage of police dragging Robinson into a van went viral, and screenshots of Connolly's offending tweet sparked outrage even among people who had never supported her politics. The question was no longer, do you agree with them? It was, since when is this illegal? This was the atmosphere Trump stepped into when he launched his televised assault on Starmer's government. It wasn't just opportunism, it was timing. By placing the arrests in the same breath as Britain's migrant scandal, Trump framed the issue not as a matter of legal technicalities, but as a moral reckoning. You can't call yourself a democracy while you're jailing people for tweets, he declared. And you can't call yourself a leader while you're doing it to cover up your failures. His words cut through the